want to introduce Alex Grinch, our new defensive coordinator, safeties coach here to Sooner Nation. Feels like it's been a long time coming now, but certainly a hire that I'm just thrilled with.
This is, I think I made the comment when I first got hired. This is a one percenter, and there's a lot of programs that maybe make that claim, but this is the elite of the elite.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from SoonerScoop.com. Presented by the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Another edition of the Choctaw Casinos and Resort in Durant, unofficial 40. As a lot of things have been put to bed since the last time we talked to you guys. Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch having their joint press conferences over the weekend. We got to talk to Roy Manning and also Brian Odom, the newest coaches, newest assistant coaches on the Oklahoma coaching staff. You've got recruiting that's still ongoing as well. Junior Days coming up. OU basketball is not, they've fallen out of the top 25. I guess we won't have an OU practice or OU football update today. Or OU basketball.
I bet we'll have a couple
basketball
updates.
Update. Yeah.
But let's start off with the top with I think what everybody wanted to talk about this week, and that's the OU women's basketball program. Sherry Cole and the group, they lost again over the weekend. This time by 35.
Last night too.
No, I'm just kidding. No one cares.
Eddie, you were there.
People care, but
okay, let's go to Bob.
What's up,
Bob? You are not under suspension now. You were there at the press conference. Alex Grinch spoke. I think everybody was looking forward to hearing a new defensive coordinator speak and what he would have to say. What was your main takeaway?
Just everything's about the mentality. It's about
okay. You're ruining all my
effort.
sound clips. Let's go to Alex Grinch and talk about takeaways and what he was able to do at Washington State, where they had 24 takeaways last time he was a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, we kind of coined the phrase takeaways equal victory, and so it stems from the fact that the sole purpose of the defense to be on the football field is to get the ball back to the offense, and for whatever reason in other sports, no one seems to be confused that way. If you're playing you use other sports as reference, but in basketball, if you're defending a guy, you want to take the ball away from him, and so defensively. You want to contain yards. You obviously want to limit points, but the purpose behind every play in football is for the defense to get the ball back to the offense. And by the way, the ball doesn't have any working knowledge of who it's supposed to be thrown to. It doesn't know that the quarterback is supposed to throw it to a receiver. It doesn't know it's supposed to stay in the running back's arms. And so if the ball doesn't know, then how on earth do we know? So that gives us every opportunity on every snap of football to get the ball back.
I literally had never thought of a football having a brain until Alex Grinch had a press conference.
That was pretty damn close to Bob Diaco. The thing about defense is it's the defense.
It's like flying in a spaceship, coming back in for re-entry.
He had a lot of I don't really know what I was expecting as far as hearing Alex Grinch talk, because I really hadn't seen a whole lot of interviews with him. I think the only thing that I had seen of him being in some type of interview setting was that clip that when he was still in Pullman and completely kind of was an asshole to the reporter when they were asking about Ohio State and him taking the job. But I thought he had a really good press conference as far as he clearly has a vision for what he wants this defense to be. And I think that's something that maybe has been lacking. I think something that obviously a lot of people wanted. And it'll be interesting to see how he instills it. They clearly have a plan, though, and it's basically you don't have to be a 5-star to give a lot of effort is basically what he said.
Here's the clip.
It helps when you're a 5-star.
What I was most impressed with. I was impressed with the whole thing about the football doesn't know where it's supposed to go. But we spend so much time on the message boards, and people spend so much time. It's like the dungeons, and it's like turning football into Dungeons and Dragons. It's the same thing with, I call Phil Still's gambling guide, his football preview, the Dungeons and Dragons guide to college football, because it's just so nerdy. And people love nerding out. They love saying, you didn't play football. You don't know you don't know the intricacies of the game like I do. Dude, you played in high school. Shut your ass. All right. Anyway, everybody gets so caught up in that stuff. What it comes down to is actually guys playing hard, guys playing harder than the other team. And I think we've all seen it. It didn't matter what the hell what scheme OU ran this year. Those guys didn't play hard. I mean, you would watch other teams. You would watch Alabama. You would watch Clemson. I mean, those teams played so much harder defensively than OU did. And it was a lot about effort. And Alex Grinch really, kind of hit home with that point on Sunday.
And I mentioned the defense this week. It's an effort-based defense. Effort's the greatest equalizer in sport, which means it also can go both ways. And so if you allow that individual across from you to play with more effort than you can have the fanciest scheme in the world, and it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. But so in any event, just understand the impact that way. Understanding that when you talk about takeaways and you make an emphasis of it, and I think where it's 24, 23, 28, 3 years running, that you get what you demand, and then you make it a big deal on a day-to-day from a practice standpoint. So no, certainly you draw from those experiences, but you don't allow yourself to be naive to say that you just can check those boxes because you did some of those things in your past.
And we'll bring Josh McQuistion in because we've just left him hanging. But Josh, I think that says a lot right there. And you can comment on this just watching this team every year and just being able to see other teams play. This team, it was clear, and it wasn't so much about the schemes with Mike Stoops, and everybody lost their mind about all that kind of stuff, and 3-4 and 3-3-5 or whatever, or 4-3. What it came down to is Mike Stoops failed to reach that team to get them to play at a high level.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, and you heard, even when Buki made the comment the night of, that there clearly was a disconnect between him and a lot of the players, and you don't know where that happens. You don't know why it happened. You don't know if it was continuous, if that was the problem of the last 3 or 4 years, or if it was just this team. It's hard to know where everything begins and ends. My issue always was, and you guys kind of touched on it a second ago, I thought there was always kind of a moving idea of what they wanted this defense to be. There was never, this is what we're going to do. We believe in this. We're going to build this way. It was kind of like, well, we'll try a little of this. We'll try a little of that. And I thought it affected recruiting because they could never you never were like, okay, that looks like an OU 3-4 outside linebacker. That looks like OU's nose tackle. Like, it was just a moving target at all times. And so it was kind of hard to grasp what they were trying to do. I mean, they recruited Kenneth Mann and Ron Tatum for the same position. Those are two very, very different guys and very different players. So it was kind of hard to know where they were trying to go. This group, from everybody I've talked to already, I mean, and, I know you guys sitting there talking to him, it was pretty clear as well. There's no question. They know exactly what they want to be. It's just a matter of how quickly they can kind of install that and get themselves there.
I think that's a part of it, the recruiting and having a system, and I've said that many times. Like, you've got to have a system that you recruit to, that you just plug guys in and you make it work. Now, I think the thing about Alex Grinch is he has been able to make defenses work when he didn't have the talent level that he had at Oklahoma, when he didn't have the talent level that he had at Ohio State. And I think, Lincoln Riley seemed to be pretty clear that was one of the reasons, guys, that, he was so enamored with Alex Grinch in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like, I don't know. Did you? I mean, I kept thinking, and I think you said it this morning, Bob, was the fact that we sat there and you just kept thinking that this is 2015 all over again, as far as has Lincoln Riley basically went out and hired himself, but in the defensive form.
Correct. Right. No, that's what I've been trying to say. Bob Stoops gave Lincoln the keys to the offense. Lincoln's doing the same with Alex in terms of the defense and believing he's found the defensive version of himself from 4 years ago. And now here you go. Do whatever you need to do to try to fix it. You bring in Manning, you bring in Odom, you bring in his guys, his mentality, his way. Now go get the job done.
You know, I mean, he had success as a defense coordinator. He went to Ohio State, and I think that was purely a money thing. Just Washington State didn't want to pay, and he got, $800,000 or whatever it was from Ohio State to go be a co-DC. I mean, this is clearly for him his chance to really make his mark that he didn't have at Ohio State. He would have had to wait for Greg Schiano to clear the way, and then which did happen, right? They got rid of Schiano.
It did
anyway,
happen, yes.
Even after he left. So, I mean, the thing is here. What's interesting to me is Greg Schiano is going to be coaching one of the positions, if not the position, that they had the most problems with last year, the safety position. So, I mean, as a position coach...
You mean Grinch?
Grinch, who did I say?
Schiano.
Schiano, Grinch, yeah, see? I'm trying to do too many things one time. The thing about it is...
It'd be interesting if they brought Schiano in.
Yeah.
Showers would be clean.
It's not... He had nothing to do with that, Clay Travis. So, anyway... He not only he has to be the defensive coordinator, but he has to fix one of the most broken positions on the entire roster.
How far away are they, as far as from a safety position? And I mean, is it clearly just a lack of talent, or did they start a guy like Adele and Turner Yell last year? That does he have a chance at being a somebody?
Yes, I say yes.
I mean, he was a freshman.
Because he has
I can
size.
understand.
I mean, that's their biggest problem. They have no size in the secondary.
And how quickly does Barnes come back? I think that hit by Jacobs will. I don't know if it'll keep him out the entire spring, but I think it's a lot bigger deal than just a 2 to 3 week thing for him.
Well, some circles think he should have to retire after taking a hit like that.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's
I'm not talking about it physically.
Embarrassing to your career,
right? He got ran over.
That's something you mentally have to come back from.
Get off the tracks when the train's coming through, type of thing.
It's. I mean, it really is. It's like
I thought he was dead. I thought he was dead on the field.
It's kind of like Seabiscuit, isn't it? Like he might have to go just live on a farm for a while.
Yeah, but Seabiscuit probably got like hundreds of millions of dollars to have sex and get for
well, not then. He wasn't. Well, was he studying while he was recovering?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
Sounds like a good recovery to me.
Seabiscuit was a gelding, right?
No.
What's a gelding? I don't even know what that is. I just threw that out there.
That's horse talk. Hey, sweetheart.
We need to get
Some people will get that.
We need to get Chris Lincoln on the phone.
Call him up.
Let me tell you about Seabiscuit.
Gelding means they can't breed, right? Yeah.
Well, they cut off their dick.
I have no idea.
I don't know if did Seabiscuit have a penis? Google that.
All right. Seabiscuit. I just go that Seabiscuit penis.
Eddie's got his computer here. I don't want to ruin your search history.
That's never been searched on this computer, by the way. Thank God.
Could Seabiscuit sire? Could Seabiscuit
Seabiscuit was
hump?
the 1938 Horse of the Year.
Was it a gelding? This is a riveting podcast.
Oh, here we go. Seabiscuit, stallion, or gelding. God,
what if I'm right on this?
Seabiscuit made little impact as a sire is one of the article titles from 2003 in the DRF Daily Racing
So he had a
Forum.
penis.
Yeah, if he sired at all, then
sired.
he was. Mm-hmm.
We just don't know if he was.
I don't know a girl
It's
named
like-
Mia that would like that.
So Robert Barnes has to go to a farm now and just make kids until he's better.
And we thought going
I
in.
guess that's a long way to get around to saying
This
that.
is potentially is this racist segment? We're comparing an athlete to a horse.
I'm gonna go ahead and go. Yes, this is racist.
Specious. That's specious.
Makes me comfortable.
Sorry, Arkansas. You might have won this round.
Anyway, yeah, but the safety position back on track. Look, it's interesting because I mean they actually weren't terrible when Fields came into the game after Barnes went down. In fact, you could say they might have been a little bit better.
Is he the guy that gets written off? Like, even though he actually played fairly well in that game, like nobody's talking about Pat Fields as a guy that's going to compete for one of the starting jobs.
And honestly, in kind of a tough spot, like he didn't play at all during the regular season. And good luck, you just got thrown in against Alabama.
Yeah.
And by the way, your team's down by 1 million right now.
And they have the Biletnikoff winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see that the coaches start liking Fields more because he was in against Texas when they went to a nickel set.
Yeah, that's true.
So Fields started to see action a lot more. I think people are just concerned with him is the lack of size too, and you just see that across the board. So when Barnes is your only guy with size, and then he gets taken out, then you start to wonder where's it going to come from? Is it Jamal Morris? I don't know. How early can it be for someone like that? But yeah, I mean, size is clearly an issue when you look at.
Did Clemson have a lot of size in the secondary?
I mean,
because Alabama didn't this year.
No.
I mean, Deontay Thompson was long, but
Right.
they didn't have a. I mean,
They didn't have that big killer.
They didn't have. I mean, and not like Collins was that big.
Isaiah Simmons is 6'2", 230 is what he's listed at
for Clemson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But he was kind of their
little bit hybrid everything.
Yeah.
Was he 12? Number 12?
No, he was.
He was at 8, I think.
Yeah, that
Something like
sounds.
that. I'm pretty sure he was
right.
a single digit.
I'm just wondering out loud, like, what does a championship safety look like now?
Isaiah Simmons
Is everybody small?
11.
Yep.
There you go.
And from Kansas, probably a guy that OU could have recruited.
But I mean, I
Actually-
guess what's weird is, like, I mean, Texas to me almost has like a prototypical secondary, like what you'd want.
BJ
Yeah.
Foster is going to be damn
Foster's
good.
really good. Stearns is really good. I mean, they got some guys that hit.
Can the battle between their secondary and Oklahoma's group of receivers the next 2 or 3 years is going to be a lot of fun. That's a lot of NFL guys going head to head.
Yeah,
Caden Stearns only listed at 6 foot 205.
He's not huge.
but that's better than 5'10", 180.
Sure,
Yeah.
That's 20 pounds.
it's a big difference.
I mean, when you look at it physically, Robert Barnes is the only guy that if you looked at his listed height and weight, you would think like, okay, that's a potential NFL guy. Like if you were just doing it just like I said, just off the numbers, he's the guy that you'd be like, okay, maybe him.
And he's the only one in that entire secondary you look at and you go, oh, that's a safety.
Yep. Oh, Turner Yell looks like a corner. Buki is a corner.
He's a safety, Josh.
Sorry, I almost misspoke. I almost let it happen.
So
Someday.
I mean, it is. I mean, you guys were over talking to Roy Manning, and I don't have any clips from him, but I know he was asked a lot about, how do you go about rebuilding this? Kind of what was his thoughts on how he was going to approach those guys?
What he didn't do, he didn't go into like scheme. He didn't talk about if he's going to be press or back off, kind of like the way the Sooners had.
Go with zone or man.
Yeah, he didn't go into that stuff, but he just talked about, they have to know what it feels like to have success again and to expect it and to get that confidence back up. And he said that starts with him. He's got to bring that attitude in, and those guys have to follow his lead. He's going to be very vital in that type of role. But he's like, if you go through spring practice and all the weight room and the summer and training camp, why wouldn't you expect to have a lot of success? So it's just going to be about changing that mindset. And it's just weird because all those guys are coming back. They didn't have a senior once Houghton went down. They didn't have a senior in the backfield. So who recovers the fastest? I think Trey Brown is someone that you can look to.
Yeah.
But outside of that, that's just become a crapshoot as to who's going to become the guy that bounces back the quickest and fits in with Manning and Grinch.
I mean, it's crazy to say, but to me, Motley is the one guy that's proven he can bounce back. I mean, I don't know how Norwood's going to react after this year because, I mean, he had some rough spots. And whether it was the Alabama game or the OSU game, there are times when he's been the consistent guy. And let's face it, he was Carey Cook's guy. Like, that was his favorite guy. It was pretty clear. So
I'd probably agree with that.
When you move Trey Norwood to safety because he's not getting it done at corner, that's a pretty big, you're my guy. Like, I'm going to find a way to have you on the field.
I thought maybe because they didn't trust Buki or Turner Yell, so they went with someone that they felt that Carey felt he trusted.
I think they just felt like they could trust Motley and Trey Brown more as corners, and that they could have like the NFL is starting to call it a slot corner. Did you guys notice that? I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the NFL has invented a new position called the slot corner. It's for all the Wes Welkers of the world, the Amendolas and the Edelmans and.
Gotta think of another white guy. Come on.
I was gonna say
Cole Beasley.
I was gonna Hunter Renfro's not even in the league yet.
Oh, he's about to be.
He and Taylor Cornelius would be a great match. They're both going bald.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Hunter Renfrow had a situation like that on top of his head.
Well, he's 73 years old.
Yeah, I knew that he was an elder statesman, but I did not realize that it was that bad.
He is, in fact, older than Eddie. So,
by the way, one last clip from Grinch to kind of wrap up what we were talking about. He was asked kind of point blank, what scheme is he going to run? What scheme is he going to run? And Alex Grinch, who gave no details, but did say a lot of things in his opening press conference, had this to say about the type of defense that he's going to run.
Yeah, and we kind of use the phrase downhill approach, and really what we mean by that is being less reactionary. You know, there's an element to it, obviously, defensively. You know, the offense knows the play they're running. Obviously, we have to react to where the ball is. So, I mean, that's football. But trying as best we can to put our guys in a situation that, you know, an offense has to react to you, you know, to a certain extent. And you know, single gap defense in our front, so that the guys have an understanding where they need to be, kind of when they need to be there and how they got to get there. You know, much more emphasis on the how as opposed to the what. We you know, from a coverage standpoint, you know, we attempt as best we can to make receivers win. You know, the game is space and speed in 2018, 2019 in college football. And so trying to do, from a coverage standpoint, you know, put ourselves in a situation that we can eliminate, you know, certainly match from a speed standpoint, and by doing so, try to do the best we can to eliminate, you know, issues from a space standpoint. So, and you can do that structurally in a number of different ways. And so we try to be multiple as best we can and put our guys in a situation that when you say downhill, they pre-snap, they have an understanding of where they need to be. We eliminate the gray. You know, from as best we can. Again, the offense does a pretty good job of adding gray. So we don't, as coaches, it's important that we don't you know, add more to it. So in any event, yeah, no, structurally it'll be you know, multiple, both in the front and on the back end. But it's kind of some of those elements in place. You know, aggressive in coverage, as mentioned, and then single gap defense in the front.
I don't know that you learned anything from that, except they're going to be multiple. They're going to be downhill. They're
No
going to
one wants
eliminate
that
the gray.
word.
Nobody likes. Yeah, you're right. You
use
hear
that
multiple.
word.
That's a triggering word right there. I guess the follow-up question probably should have been, except it was moderated, so you couldn't just blurt it out. Like, Coach Grinch, will you in fact have players standing up as the other team is getting ready to snap the ball, looking to the sideline with their arms up in the air? Will that be happening with your defense as the ball is snapped?
I would like to report that they will not.
You would hope not.
I would think.
Well, they
so.
are eliminating the gray, so
That's their first
to me,
order
that's
of
the
business
gray.
during spring. Putting 11 guys out there and eliminating the gray.
and being downhill
This is a good hire, guys.
and multiple.
I think this guy might know what he's doing.
Does that, like, eliminating the gray, like, are they killing Liam Neeson?
Yes, they are.
I mean, I'm on board if he's that much of a badass.
I mean, we're to the point where we have corporate buzzwords in football press conference. Instead of saying we don't want our players to be confused, or we want to simplify things, it's we eliminate the gray. That's Sam Presti level. I mean, I'm starting to buy into Alex Grinch even more now.
Just because he won't talk the bullshit?
No, that absolutely is bullshit.
That's exactly what it is.
It's just covered in corporate
Slander.
chocolate
Garbage.
or whatever. Yeah.
Did he mention outside the box thinking?
Don't believe so.
No.
Okay.
No synergy or
Ooh, that's a good one.
no ideating.
There was a little synergy when they were talking about keeping Ruffin around.
Oh, we want to go there, huh? just
We haven't talked. I mean, nobody's really talking about that.
That's the hot button issue.
no. I mean, look, I've got it queued up because Lincoln was
it was on the rundown. It was either that or we talk about the blackface girls at Tridelt.
Okay, so back to Ruffin. You lost your shot. So Lincoln was asked about Ruffin, and it wasn't accusatory, like, why is that guy still on your staff? It was just, hey, tell us about what made you decide to leave Ruffin on your staff.
Yeah, the first priority was absolutely just getting the defensive coordinator hire, and once we had that, and Alex and I were able to sit down and start piecing together a staff. Yeah, I knew I had good guys on the staff. I mean, there was no doubt about that. Good guys, good coaches, and I didn't come in with some mentality of just blowing this thing up and just immediately scrapping everything we had and starting from scratch. But at the same time, I wanted it to fit. And as we went through it, Ruffin fit within Alex's scheme as we started talking about the staff layout. And then he brings a lot to this job that's very valuable for me too. And then again, the trust factor, a guy that's been through this, all the things that I've said several times about him, certainly still there, and I think he has a great feel for the pulse of this team as well, and it made sense on a lot of different levels. And I had, Alex sat down with all those guys. I wanted to see, we talked earlier about how Jalen and I would hit it off when we sat down. I wanted to see if the same things happen, because you could, like Alex said, you can have great coaches, but they don't always mesh together the right way. And so anybody that we did keep, I wanted to make sure that they did mesh, and then Ruffin and Alex did mesh as well as Calvin. And so kind of made for. It was kind of a good spot, I thought, where we had a couple of guys back that I think have done an outstanding job for us, and then brought in a couple of new guys that I think are going to be equally outstanding, and that fit Alex's what Alex wants and understand his system, and they have that comfortability. So I think it just made sense on every different level.
Look, we've talked about this a lot. Last podcast, I kind of laid it out. Here's my question for you. Would Lincoln Riley feel comfortable or be able to do his job being the offensive coordinator and head coach if he didn't have a guy like Ruffin there that he trusted?
I've always kind of thought that Ruffin was more than anything, kind of a security blanket in making Lincoln Riley feel extremely comfortable with what he's doing, if that makes sense. I think that there's definitely there's something to it. He's not just keeping the guy around to keep the guy around. I
almost wish Lincoln would just come out and say, look, if you want me to be the offensive coordinator, I need Ruffin here. End of story. That would shut everybody up.
I just think he likes having him in the locker room. He thinks he's an asset to the program.
Yeah.
And people just can't understand that, I guess, because I guess everybody else is at practice and sees what's going on every day.
Well, and I mean, let's face it, Ruffin does not come off as like Alex Grinch is sitting there throwing his corporate buzzwords around. I mean, they're not corporate buzzwords, but they might as well be with defense. Ruffin, he'll come in and talk about, I don't know. I mean, who knows what he's talking about? It's meandering, rambling, folksy stuff that nobody really understands. It's not football stuff. It's life stuff.
And that's where Lincoln needs him.
I think he likes having that father figure around, and I guess the other side of that argument is well, why couldn't he do that from an analyst role? My take on it
obviously feels like it's not the same.
Why does it matter?
Well, Lincoln obviously feels like it's not the same because I think they have so many people running around there in the faculty that the players just know are people, and they don't directly deal with them every day.
Yeah.
That is probably just white noise to them. I mean, they've got people coming in there like, hey, we need to shoot this video, or hey, we've got to do this for the pregame video, or hey, we need to do something for Sooner Club, or whatever. I mean, it's like, there's so much crap going on. The only people that are really their guys are the guys coaching them on the field.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
That's just my read.
They're kind of their family.
You think that
their little group?
You really think that Merv Johnson's going to be able to come in there and impart wisdom and get them to stop being pissed off at their position coach for a day?
Oh, I mean, I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I would be surprised if more than 5 people on that team knew who Merv Johnson is.
Yeah.
Seriously, like
I
would be surprised if there was more than 10 guys.
Maybe some of the walk-ons, maybe the majority of walk-ons know who he is because he's helped process them.
Sure. The varsity guys or the
scholarship
guys, I bet very, very few of them know. And
not know, but have a personal relationship.
Right.
How about
that? Might be a better way to put it. That might be a better way.
And then I still think when it comes with Ruffin, you want that comfort factor with Riley, but then the recruiting part, you need him on staff so he can do those in-home visits, those on-campus visits. He needs to be in touch with those families because that's where he
works well with the families.
When he's at his best.
Yeah.
That's his best moment is when it comes to those kids and their families visiting campus. And Ruffin being the folksy guy, it shines through.
Like, Nick Saban has to fake that stuff. But he does. Most coaches have to fake that stuff. Ruffin's not faking it. That's just who he is. People want him to be Saban, but he's not. I mean, they want him to be Brent Venables. He's not. He's not going to be that guy. He was a Band-Aid for that defense last year. It wasn't like he was auditioning to be the defensive coordinator. He was never going to be the defensive coordinator.
I thought he was just trying to keep players from transferring. Just trying to get them mentally right.
And guess what? He did a good job of that. Look at if Curtis Bolton had another
Big 12, if they still, they still won the damn thing.
I mean, Curtis Bolton, if you put another hard ass in there, he'd probably check out last season.
Yeah. I mean, and Bolton even said that in his farewell tweet. Like, I think he called Ruffin sheepdog or something. He's like, I wish I would have had you the entire time I was here. Ruffin's doing that part of the job right. Don't expect him to do the X's and O's. That's not what he's doing now.
All right, I want to remind you guys, this is the Choctaw Casinos and Resort in Durant, unofficial 40. If you guys are, I know a lot of listeners that we have are in the Dallas area. It is a simple drive up to Durant to have a great weekend. You can, you don't have to have the usual night out. Go book a stay at Choctaw Casino and Resort, and you'll have a great weekend. Just lots of slots, table games, poker room, delicious dining offerings, top entertainment acts, even a relaxing spa, but. Even the restaurants. I mean, I've been up there a couple of weekends, and just the dining itself is fantastic. The steakhouse, the 1832 Steakhouse. You've got the Gillies bar. You've got a La Cantina for Mexican food, and they've also got the District. If you want to go out and do some bowling or check out the sports bar, just go see a movie while you're out there all weekend. It's a fantastic place to stay. And I'm telling you, I've been to most of the big casinos in Oklahoma, and it is as good as anything that you're going to find. So thanks to the Choctaw Casinos and Resort in Durant for being the title sponsor of the Unofficial 40. All right, one of the things that was addressed by Lincoln officially was Jalen Hurts and also the transfer of Austin Kendall from the program, and there was a lot of controversy around that just because of the blocking that was said to be going on of Austin Kendall from eligibility, and Lincoln Riley kind of talked about the reasons why he finally relented on that and allowed Austin Kendall to become immediately eligible at West Virginia this next season.
You know, I think he certainly has the ability to be a really good leader for us, but you know he's got to get in here
and that was completely labeled as the wrong clip.
That's Jalen Hurts.
He was talking about Jalen Hurts there. Here is
breaking news. Austin Kendall's coming back to Oklahoma.
Reported here first.
No, that is not breaking news. Here's hopefully the right clip.
Like I said, we had good, open, honest conversation. There was a point in time where I was not ready to grant him that. I was kind of, I think, pretty honest throughout the entire time that I haven't made a final decision yet. I'm trying to get to that place because personally, the human element, I want to do it for you. I love the kid. Austin Kendall was great here. I loved every minute that he was here. His family was great. He was a very positive member of this team, and I didn't want him to go. But then I also wanted to make sure I'm making the best decision for Oklahoma, too, and for all of our staff, all of our players, for all the players that will play for us in the coming years. Because, like I said, these decisions, you know, they carry weight, and you can't just always make it for one individual guy. So we worked through it. And there was different points where they needed to know where I stood relative to their decisions, and I was honest. And then we got to a point as it went on where I felt like I still have some inner back and forth about it, to be completely honest, but I got to a point where the human element of it was strong enough that we felt like it was the right thing to do in this situation.
It was a lot of back and forth with Lincoln Riley. I mean, he basically said over and over again, I didn't want to do it, but I felt like I had to do it, although I still don't know if that was the right decision.
The decision carries weight was the only line I thought made sense, because he realized, wait a minute, if I don't do this, this could hurt me going
in
down
the future. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
If you have another kid and you're recruiting him and he's a big-time quarterback and he wants – like, you can't open that Pandora's box if you're I was surprised that Lincoln –
I mean, look at the outcry that happened the 2 hours after the report went out. I mean, I think there was a lot of public perception, too, that
well, when you're
went
bringing
into that
in
decision.
he's leaving because you're bringing in a graduate transfer from a school that you just played in your final game.
And your last 2 Heisman winners were transfers.
Yeah.
Different situation, I know, I understand. I was well aware of that when you make the comment that it's a bad look. I realized Baker Mayfield wasn't on scholarship. I don't think it matters. All the kid did was graduate in 3 years and basically put his career on hold to try and stay around. And, I mean, it is what it is. He's not good enough to play here.
Yeah, and they made a decision.
And I don't even know if he's not good enough to play here.
He's not good enough to lead them to where they want to go. It's a better way of putting it.
That's probably a much better way to put it.
They made that determination. They said, Jalen Hurts is available. He wants to come here. We can get further with him as our quarterback than we can as Austin Kendall.
Sure. And it's one of the most unlucky situations somebody's ever been in to sit behind 2 Heisman Trophy winners like Austin Kendall did.
And I still believe there's some bad blood
Yeah,
between
there's
Kendall
bitterness.
and Riley. But I think now that everything's working out, you backtrack in your mind like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. Oh, it was great. He was great. Because you don't want to leave on bad terms. There's no reason to do it like that.
They broke up. I mean, it was a breakup.
Right. They stopped following each other on Twitter.
I mean, they broke up. It was I don't even know if it was a marriage, but it was a chick and a dude that had been a long-term relationship.
It's 2019. It was definitely 2 dudes.
So it was 2 dudes that probably had a mortgage together. And, you know, they had, because it's Oklahoma,
a child.
They couldn't have a legal ceremony. Yeah, they didn't.
Nobody would make him a cake.
There were no children, you know, to be divvied up. I think you do it that way.
Did they have joint bank accounts, or was it still separate?
I think it's probably separate.
Joint, yeah.
Oh.
No, separate.
Joint?
No, separate.
Yeah,
I don't think they were that.
They would have been joint if he would have became the starter.
One bank account has a lot of money, the other one doesn't because he's a student athlete and doesn't get anything.
Because I thought he went over the top. Remember you saying like me and Austin were laughing because people didn't know. Like,
yeah,
it went too far.
He was upset probably at people like us that made it out to be drama.
Well, there was a reason.
We called it pettiness, and people got mad at us. I mean, but that's fine.
Watch out what we say. We might not get any access the next couple of weeks.
We're here for the pettiness.
To be fair, that was really one guy that went a little bananas.
Yeah, that's true.
But he did go off the reservation crazy.
See, here's the thing that people don't realize is once you start telling us how to do our jobs that we know how it should be done and you don't, like, we don't ever have to listen to you about anything again. Because we know that you're full of shit. Like, no matter what you say, you can sit there and say, oh, I know what OU football needs to do to fix things. No, you don't. Because you're full of shit. You've proved it to us.
Well, I would say that you've proved it to anybody if you send in a complaint via Facebook, but maybe that's just me.
No, this was on the board. He's talking about...
yeah, you remember that from
That was a big old long thread.
No.
Yeah. Eddie was... You might have been in Scottsdale.
No,
I was around. I probably just didn't read it.
Sooner bounce.
You're like
oh,
I
yeah,
am.
that guy.
Yes.
When it gets to like 7 pages, I do check out.
But it just... Some people... I'm just glad people like that can log on to the internet every day. We'll
but
leave
just
it at
don't
that.
tell us about how to do our jobs and that we're going to... Like, that comes up like at least once a year. Like, you guys are going to lose your access. No, we're not.
The problem with the argument he was making, and sorry to go off on this for people that aren't on the board, it's not like you guys have some separate level of access from every other media outlet. Like everybody
has the same access.
On the pod, so this week they don't get access. You guys are at the same thing everybody else is at. Like it's got nothing to do with that.
That's a fact.
SoonerScoop has the top seat in the press box. We will among online entities. We will remain the top seat in the press box. If we were so horrible,
is it like an orchestra concert? We're the first chair.
We are the first chair. Yeah.
What instrument are we?
I don't know. What's the most badass instrument?
Probably the cello.
Really?
I don't know.
Really?
Not like the violin?
I mean, it might be.
Aren't those the
I don't-
most
I've no
skilled?
idea.
Are we talking band or orchestra here?
Orchestra. Oh yeah, I guess they do have that for band, don't they? I never think of a band as a first chair. I always think of it as like a marching band.
I mean, do we have to say bass just in homage to Jared? I mean, is he going to get pissy if we don't?
Oh, he knows about orchestras.
Okay. I mean, I'm just,
Cello a cello is a bass, I think. See, once again, we're getting into territories
We don't know.
that we have no idea what we're talking about.
But let's tell band people how to run their damn show,
Yes.
Carey.
I'm not doing that. Eddie's making fun of bald people. I'm getting in trouble for that.
I didn't say anything about bald people. I haven't said anything about
We'll
bald
have to
people.
review the tape.
This is Josh. This is his fault.
He
Josh
did-
could
he
not
did
even
put it out there.
Josh
I
could
laid
not
no blame
even.
at anyone's feet.
You could not even wait for the pod to get over before you went to social media and tattled like a little bitch.
I said we had bald shaming. I made no hint at who might have said something. I thought Jason Kersing needed to know.
And you
So if he
tagged
was
him too.
listening, he might be wounded and he could skip that part. So he just didn't have to partake in that and the pain and suffering that it causes him. I'm looking out for Kersey.
You told him last week that if Noble would disown him, you might rank some of their players. So I don't know how you're trying to come off as the good guy here.
Yeah, it's a tough year for the Bears. Didn't see a lot on the Noble huddle reel.
Should we get to your rankings now, or I've got some more Hurts. We've got to get to Hurts.
Sure, yeah, that's above.
And kind of what his role is, because I mean the Austin Kendall thing, we put that to bed. Now Jalen Hurts, I think one of the biggest questions that was answered is Lincoln Riley was kind of asked, what, because we didn't have Jalen Hurts to talk to, like what attracted him to you guys.
No, one, opportunity. Guys want a chance to come compete. Development. I mean, he's been able to look and see the, development of our quarterbacks here over a pretty long period of time, and I think that was positive. I think a lot of guys are wanting to find some type of way to get in, into this offense some way, somehow. It's obviously it's doing some good things at this level and beyond, and I think there's some clear advantages there, especially at that position. And I think for him, it gives him a chance to win. He's been at one of the other winningest programs in the country here over the last couple of years and has had a chance to compete for championships and be in those big games. And I think he sees that opportunity here. And so, I think those things were all pretty apparent. And I think the meetings were just more of a compatibility type meeting, of getting a feel. Is it going to work with this staff? Am I going to be good being coached by this guy? How do we hit it off? How do we click? And we both agreed going into it that if anything didn't feel right on either side, that we weren't going to do it, because him coming here and it not being successful is not good for us. It's not good for him. It doesn't make any sense. And certainly just being a fan of the kid from afar the last few years, you just, as a fan of the game and not many players that handles situations like he had at Alabama, not many people handle it like he did. And so you just kind of want to see the kid get in a place where he can get a great opportunity and thrive and become the quarterback that we all think he can be. And so, when he got here, it just seemed to fit, seemed natural, easy, and had some good conversations, and I know he's excited, ready to go.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about what Lincoln said there was, if it didn't work for him or it didn't work for them, they shouldn't do it. I just have to think deep down, like, what a feather in Lincoln Riley's cap if he turns Jalen Hurts into not a great quarterback, but just a quarterback that was a lot better than he was at Alabama. Like, he becomes the official quarterback whisperer if that happens, to where Alabama may have the process and they may have the national championships and all that stuff, but Lincoln Riley basically, and I don't know, maybe this builds on his NFL resume, so it might not be great for Oklahoma, but there's no doubt no one can question that Lincoln Riley would be the premier developer of quarterbacks in college football.
Yeah, it would be like saying, hey, who's the most different from Kyler Murray as a quarterback in terms of size, skill set, and things of that nature, and saying, all right, make Lincoln Riley have Jalen Hurts become a great quarterback. That's his next challenge. And it's like, all right, let's go ahead and do it. I think Jalen Hurts is a better passer than people give him credit for, and I think he can really flourish in this type of offense. So I don't think it's as big of a gamble as some, but I can see on the outside people thinking there's no way he can make this guy like a 70% passer that is so efficient like he's had the last 4 seasons.
Well, I don't think there's any coincidence that after last week's pod when I said that Lincoln Riley should go after a one-legged quarterback next, that video surfaced of a
That's
kid
crazy.
with the who is the murderer, the Olympian?
Oscar
Pistorius.
Pistorius.
Yeah, he was wearing the Pistorius legs playing quarterback.
Also to our Cat Williams fan known as Tink Tink.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Tink.
I got you.
It's pretty good.
That's one of my all-time favorite bits that Cat Williams did.
One of my favorite bits is what Oscar Pistorius did.
Oh my God!
He didn't get away with it, did he?
No, he went to prison.
Yeah,
I think he's out though now. I'm pretty sure he's
because
out.
Australia.
Yeah, kind of.
They're easy
I think
on the
he
murder.
I think he has a new girlfriend. You think they're using the open door policy in the restroom? Have to after something like that. Like,
I
do you
just
think
think
she?
maybe-
You think she ever like wets the bed because she's so scared to get up at night to go to the restroom? It's like I need to use the restroom, but if this son of a bitch wakes up, he might shoot me.
Take the gun with you.
That's true too. I guess you could do that, or just turn a light on. Maybe would be the best thing to do.
Just put up a sign that's not a target.
Oscar, I'm going to the restroom.
Just leave a Post-it note on his forehead.
Reva Steinkamp, yeah, she was a looker.
The new one can't be that hot.
I'm trying to find if I could be wrong. He could still be in prison.
I hope he is.
Well, I mean, that was only like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I think he's still in prison. Yeah. South African court doubles Oscar Pistorius prison sentence.
Oh, South Africa, not Australia.
And this was in 2017, so.
Well, and he killed a woman, so he probably does have some relations in prison, but I don't think he's liking them.
13 years and 5 months is what he got, so he'll be in
Good.
for a while.
That seems light for murder.
Well, maybe by the time that kid graduates high school, Oscar will be out of prison. He can come
You
to
train
America
him.
to watch him play at OU.
That was a cool video.
It was awesome. And, like, perfectly timed that it happened right after we'd had the whole conversation about Lincoln Riley's next challenge he will accept.
I think you probably have to go ahead and cut off your other leg, though. Because the springiness of one leg would be much more than the other.
Just make him go left all
If
the
you
time.
really wanted to commit to being a quarterback, I think you'd probably have to chop off your other leg.
I don't know, maybe.
But, I mean, does it give him an unfair advantage? Like, if he plants off that thing and springs, like, does
That's what
that
I'm-
drive the ball deeper?
That's what I'm wondering.
Going to be declared ineligible.
If it
It depends on how good he is.
yeah, well, if he is good and you can throw better with more extra spring in your back leg,
Don't do
you're
it.
gonna start seeing kids do it more often. It's like Tommy John surgery.
They'll just cut off legs.
Just cut off
It's
legs.
not kids.
Yeah.
It'll be the crazy
Amputation.
dads.
Yeah, the crazy dads will be, well, my kid's not ranked in Josh's new state top 40. Sorry, we gotta cut your legs off. We're going this route.
Kids like,
Great.
hell yeah.
We're not getting a scholarship the way it's going.
All right.
I have to
We've
bear
already-
the responsibility for amputation statewide. Great.
We've already paid 5 recruiting services. This is the last option.
Amputation. We need to make like a flow chart of when you know amputation is necessary. Like, first, start out is Rivals Camp Series. If you don't win quarterback MVP there, then, you go down to NUC or whatever is the next
You have
level.
all these like football reasons, and 8th is diabetes.
God, I would, Carey, you mentioned NUC. It made me think the other day. I used to drive down to Dallas to see NUC camps.
Do they still have them?
Yes.
Those are still around. Yeah.
Well, the problem is you had NUC and you had the opening, or what was just Nike. What was
at
it?
the time, yeah.
What was it? NFCT or whatever.
Nike football training.
Now, NUC is the
NFTC.
one that parents pay for, right? You pay to get your kid in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
NUC.
like it's
Yeah,
not, it's like
Schumann.
$30.
Yeah.
Like it's not that big.
Yeah, it's not bad. But now you have Nike, Adidas, Under Armour on top of NUC, and pretty much you do need to have amputation if you don't get invited to any of the three.
Well, yeah.
All right, so you get invited to Adidas? No. Nike? No.
Oh my! Like he's sitting there waiting for Under Armour. Like his dad is just sitting there, just tapping his foot up and down. Son, I'm gonna make the appointment if we don't get this Under Armour.
Like surgical gloves. All right, Doc, I'll help you. Hey, go ahead, Johnny, answer him.
Well, Josh, you remember?
As his son's opening the mail, he's circling doctors' names in the phone book.
Josh, do you remember like football university too?
Oh, that
Yeah,
still
FBU.
exists.
No, FBU?
That's what's aligned with the All-American game.
Exactly.
Is it?
They still exist, and they are what I hate to say it. They've destroyed the Army Combine. That used to be a really great.
Oh yeah.
You'd see a lot of great players, and now all the elite dudes go to Orlando because they know they can actually get reps on there. You go to Army. I mean, people will kind of ask me, why don't you guys go cover that? There are usually about 600 damn kids. And like Ethan Downs, the kid from Weatherford, the 2021 class that's got a chance to be a guy, he was there, was great at the combine. Everybody loved him. He got like 6 reps. Like, I'm not driving all the way to San Antonio to see that kid do 6 reps at defensive end. I
Yeah.
want to watch him really go. And it's just a mass of humanity as to where in Orlando, they've got 50 of the best players in the country. That's worth my time. I can go see Darian Green-Warren. And if the schedule would have worked out a little bit better this year, that's what I would have done. But I had to be in San Antonio for Jaden Hazelwood. So I kind of had to do Orlando early in the week and San Antonio later in the week. But all things being equal, I'd rather be in Orlando late in the week, catch that game, and see the future 50.
And you know what? I'm not so sure that didn't lead to rivals giving that up for 24/7 too, because it got worthless. Like you said, there used to be a time we'd go for the underclass combine, and it was great. I mean, it was huge names. You could interview the kids. You know, they would talk to you. You could see them, like you said, get a bunch of reps. As soon as that FBU thing took off, it was like a bunch of little shrimp kids in there. And not only do they pay to get in the combine, but then they get to get the players' autographs after the game. Like, what kind of recruit cares about getting the autographs of the players that are playing in the All-American
Of
game?
guys like 2 years older than them.
Yes.
They
should invite college coaches to the event, and then they can watch which ones are going out to get autographs afterwards.
And check them off their list.
You're immediately checked off of a list.
After the game, and Jaden had announced,
Maybe.
I guess about mid-4th quarter, I literally, the clock was expiring, and I'm walking up behind him, and I grabbed the back of his jersey. I'm like, Jaden, hey, do the hand line. That's fine. Whatever. As soon as that's over, I'm going to be right where you're standing, and we're going to do an interview. And he's like, cool. So, you can't, I mean, Eddie knows the Joe Mixon thing will live in infamy forever.
Yeah.
It's me on one damn knee interviewing Joe Mixon as he's signing autographs for 40 kids. And it's a horrible interview. Joe didn't want to do it. He was doing all these autographs. It was just, you're like, this is not why anybody's here. Nobody cares about this. And then they also have the damn San Antonio high school all-star game after the Army game. So all the kids get shuffled off and everybody gets off the field, and then they play another damn high school game within an hour after the end of the Army game. So it's just nuts.
Actually, Eddie, better idea for you. The kids that go and get autographs that are 2 years younger, those are the amputees. Right there. Okay, I want to remind you guys, Coop Ale Works, a great sponsor of the podcast. Go to coopaleworks.com. Go check out their offerings. The F5 IPA, I know Jason Kersey actually texted me the other day that he was at a Thunder game and he got a F5 IPA, and so I appreciate that. And then he got another one, and I didn't hear from him
because he was bald.
I didn't know. Okay, see, you did that.
That was you.
But 7 year-round offerings. It is the premier local brewery in Oklahoma City. You guys know I'm a huge fan of the Horny Toad Blonde. The DNR, a great beer as well. The Saturday Siren, just a lot of great beers. Go check them out at your local liquor stores. You will not be disappointed. Everything, they have all kinds of offerings for what you like in your beer, whether you're an IPA guy, you're a Pilsner guy. The porter that's out now is fantastic. The Grand Sport Porter, their seasonal offerings. So 4 of those a year. They had Oktoberfest before this. So CoopAleWorks.com. Also, if you're in Dallas, Arkansas, go check out their website. You can find out where you can get Coop Ale Works near to you. All right, so Josh, you are going through your day of hell because you put up Oklahoma's top 40 list. I went over and looked at mentions before the start of the podcast. It was not pretty. But Josh and Bob, maybe you guys want to just talk about the release of the list today, and kind of, Josh, maybe some of the highlights there for you, guys that might have surprised you in this process and moved up further than you thought maybe than a month ago?
Well, I'll go into that in a second. I think really the conversation everybody wants to have is the top 2, and I've got it in reverse order from rivals. I've got Andrew Rame. One of Oklahoma's only 2 offers in the state right now in 2020. The offensive lineman from Broken Arrow, a guy that Oklahoma offered as a freshman, almost the same timeline that they offered Bray Walker to kind of tell you where OU saw him at that point. He's a very interesting guy because when he was offered, everybody kind of thought he was going to grow into a tackle. I think more and more we're all accepting that he's probably going to be a guard, and that hurts his value a little bit. But, I mean, there's no question. He is an elite offensive lineman. He is a key piece of Oklahoma's recruiting effort. They really need to land him. Number 2 is Javian Hester, Oklahoma's other offer in state, wide receiver from Booker T. This was really close. I mean, one of the closer ones I've had. It was so different from last year when Dax Hill was just so clearly wire-to-wire number 1. There was no conversation. He was the guy. These 2 may flip a couple of times. We'll see them both in the spring. We'll know more. With Rame, it hurts him a little bit being at guard. With Hester, I just value offensive line a little more than I do receiver, just because those guys are harder to find. They just are. And so I think that's kind of why I lean in that direction. But, I know for OU fans, they'll want to, kind of guys maybe they should keep an eye on. I think Brendan Walker from Bishop McGuinness is definitely a guy to keep an eye on, kind of an outside linebacker, jack type guy. We're still learning what Alex Grinch is going to do, what he's looking for. So that's going to be a little tricky, but he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Sevion Morrison, the number 4 guy in the state from Tulsa Edison, he'll be on campus this weekend. I think he's a really interesting guy. A guy that I, really, if you wanted to say one guy that really surprised me with how good he was, and he picked up his first offer yesterday, that's Plainview's Blake Noel. 6'4", 185, picked up an Iowa State offer, like I said yesterday, and really was almost unknown when I saw him last year, and I kind of heard some buzz. His teammate is committed to Oklahoma State, Eli Russ, a big offensive lineman. So Plainview actually has 2 guys in my top 10. I can say that has literally never happened before. So it's really an interesting class because, I mean, you've got your BAs and your Booker T's, and I've got a couple Jinx guys in there kind of lower on the list. But there are a lot of guys from unfamiliar places. I mean, like I said, Tulsa Edison, couple of Bishop McGuinness guys in the top 10. Moore has a guy in the top 10. I mean, that's probably been 20 years since you could say that at Moore. So there's a lot of interesting names. And, Bob really was – I had a conversation with him about the top 2, but I'd love to hear some of his feedback because he's seen some of these guys in person more than I have.
Yeah, I think when you look at Rame, it probably did hurt a bit that he hasn't grown and he's going to be a guard. But he's been so dominant. And when you watch him in person and you see him how much he dominates and how much he was a crucial part to them winning the state championship, I just felt like he's done enough to still be the number 1 guy. And I actually don't know how much more Hester can do to try to overtake Rame if Rame continues to perform at this type of level. I think the surprise name, Morrison, by far, a guy that I didn't even think would ever be a factor heading into his junior season. But when he puts up nearly 3,000 yards of total offense and you look at his size and his frame and his speed, you believe that can be a guy. And that was sort of where I was going to go to next, Josh. We know that Rame and Hester are clear OU targets. They have the offers. Who among in the rest of that top 10 do you think the Sooners will start reaching out and maybe making that offer?
There are several guys that I can kind of point to. I mean, I think Noel's interesting. Like I said, I think he could grow into kind of a Calcaterra type. Very big guy, really runs well. Kind of runs like a Mark Andrews. Really a legit, probably 4'6" kind of guy at 6'4", 180. That's not something you forget about. I mentioned Brendan Walker. I had always kind of seen him as an H-back type, but his film, and the reason he's number 3 is because now I can see him as like I said, a jack, a outside pass rusher. We talked about Sevion Morrison. He'll be in Norman this weekend for Junior Day. I think he's a little bit down the list, but it's not because he's not really talented. It's just because, like we talked about in Scoop last week, 2020 at running back may be the best running back class I've ever seen. Like nationally, in Texas, in Oklahoma. I mean, you just go down the list, and there are guys everywhere that are unbelievable.
OU's in on them. It's not just
right. You're right. Another guy that's interesting to me is Deuce Mayberry from Owasso.
I like that kid a lot.
You talked about, and I know we've all kind of had some conversations. I think Roy Manning even talked about it a little bit, kind of having a preference for kind of a longer corner, some guys that are, just a little bigger maybe than what and I may be putting that on him and he didn't say it. It may just be something I've heard. But I think there is a pretty clear preference for some bigger, longer guys than the kind of Justin Broyles, Trey Brown, Trey Norwood that are a little more about being twitchy and quick, but maybe aren't as big and physical. Mayberry is 6'1", 170, and that's legitimate. That's from a Rivals camp measurement that we got of him last spring. And I like him a lot on tape. It's kind of mixed when you talk to people in Tulsa. Some people talk about his ability. Some people kind of tell me maybe he's not always as locked in as he needs to be, so that could be the reason that he doesn't have a lot of early attention. But, I mean, I've got him as the number 5 guy in the state. I think he is a really, really interesting prospect. You go down the list, and, I mean, there's some of these guys that I don't know well enough yet. Like, I want to see more. A good example is Krishan Brown, the outside linebacker from Booker T, that's about 6'2", 205, super athletic, all over the field. Could he be a guy that fits in somewhere for Oklahoma? Sure. And it's a matter of I don't know him well enough yet to really say, okay, this is where I see him fitting. And also, I don't know what Oklahoma wants to do exactly yet on defense. So I've got to kind of mesh those things together, and then you can start getting a clearer picture of, okay, this guy fits, this guy doesn't fit. But, there are some pieces in this class that are interesting. It's just going to be a matter of what Oklahoma chooses to do.
Okay, Josh, you're going to have to run here in a bit. I know you have an interview set up with OU's newest commitment, David Agwebu, who has pushed Oklahoma to number 3 in the Rivals team rankings right now. But that puts Oklahoma at 24. And it's weird to say because we're only 2 weeks away. Is it literally? Are we 2 weeks away literally from, or is it 3 from the National Signing Day?
It's 2 weeks today.
2 weeks today.
Yep.
And I know everybody's like, well, that should be a big deal. It's really not because OU already had 23 signed going into this thing. But let's talk about that real quick. You're going to go talk to David today. What else is out there? I know, Oklahoma's had some visits. There's Josh or Bob, I believe there's one set of eyeballs unaccounted for.
Yes, there's one set of eyes.
So what do you guys expect here down the stretch in the next 2 weeks?
For me, and maybe Bob has heard something different. I've kind of been so wrapped up in the rankings for the last week. There may be a conversation I've missed between he and I, but I see 2 guys that are real viable for Oklahoma right now in 2019. And then everything else I hear is 2020. Like Lincoln Riley today is in Kentucky, went to see a 2020 prospect, Vito Tisdale, that's good buddies with Woody Washington. So, I'm just not hearing a lot of, okay, well, Oklahoma's kicking around that guy. Maybe he'll come in for a visit on the last weekend, and we'll kind of see if Oklahoma has room or wants to take him or whatever. I think it's Enoch Vamahi, the offensive lineman from Hawaii, and I think it's Daniel Sanike, the offensive lineman from Kansas City Rockhurst. I think if those 2 jump on board, I think Oklahoma's done. And I think EK is about as close to a sure thing as I could offer right now. Vamahi's more up in the air. I think he's visiting Ohio State this weekend.
Yes, he is.
And to me, that's really the only thing standing in Oklahoma's way. From everything I hear, Oklahoma's out in front. I think he gave both Stacey Wilkins and EJ Ndoma Ogar a pretty good vibe all week in Hawaii at the Poly Bowl. So I think there's a lot of reason to believe there. But it's Ohio State. I mean, you don't want to write them off and say that couldn't happen. It absolutely could. But I think Oklahoma right now leads for both. And I feel really good about EK, and we'll kind of see where things are this time next week for Vamahi.
And the interesting thing is, the final rival rankings are out. And I know there was a little bit of hand-wringing over that by some people, but Sooners didn't lose any 5 stars. They did have some guys drop, but overall, I mean, this is still the number 3 class in the country going into the final 2 weeks. And I don't know, most of the other teams around them have high numbers. I mean, I think I counted it up a couple weeks ago. There were 16 players in the Rivals top 250 that were undecided. I mean, some had committed, but like 16 out of 200, and that 250 has changed now since I looked at it. But I mean, this is a pretty good indication that we're kind of where we're going to be on National Signing Day.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not guaranteeing that OU's going to finish number 3.
Right, they'll finish probably like 3 to 5 somewhere in that range. And yeah, I mean, when you do the work going into early signing period, then you kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the show. And you can do that because then you start moving on Junior Day. OU's so confident when they're already having Junior Day before the actual signing day. They're like, all right, let's move on to 2020 because 2019, well, that is in the books.
And Bob, you and I kind of talked about this, before the podcast started. OU, I'm sure, I haven't heard this for certain. I probably should ask Lincoln about this, but you have to think they want to try and do something with Baker's Heisman statue for the spring game to kind of simulate what they did with Bob last year and bring in a lot of recruits. It worked well for them. But they kind of need to get some bell cows in here for this recruiting class in the next couple of months.
Yeah, they just don't have that vocal guy. I mean, you had Spencer Rattler and Trajan Bridges at this time last year that you knew were going nowhere. I mean, you'd like Jace McClellan, but he was at Texas this last weekend. Now, he's supposed to come back to Norman for Junior Day, but you need those guys that are going to be around
and the
all
spring game,
the time.
The spring game was when Weiss and R.J. Henderson recommitted.
Exactly.
So that made that a bigger weekend.
But you need that vocal presence, and I don't see anyone out there just yet, Josh, that brings that same kind of presence that you saw from Trajan and Spencer and even Austin Stogner. I think if Austin Stogner was committed for the 2020 class, I would call him the number 1 kind of recruit in terms of trying to get other guys to follow his lead.
I think Jalen Huff and Darian Green Warren are made of that kind of stuff.
But they're so far away.
They're so far away. They can't be in Norman every weekend and making sure guys feel good and there's a bond. Like they just can't do that. So that makes it a little tougher on them. And so I agree with you, Bob. Like I don't think there is a linchpin to kind of make it work. And they need that guy. They need it, whether it's a quarterback or just a big time recruit that's going to make people kind of buy into what they're doing.
And if that doesn't happen, I mean, then I guess you use your spring game as kind of the springboard, and then use your barbecue kind of as what the spring game was a year ago.
Well, and I was interested. I know Bob and I have talked about this before. Whether Oklahoma felt that spring game went, and obviously it got a lot of commitments, and there were some things that happened. But also, you always wondered if maybe we should have kept Chris Steele, kept that official visit in our pocket until December, or kept it in our pocket until the Bedlam game, whatever it was, just maybe we could have held on to that longer. It looks like they like that spring game plan because they've already set up their first official visit, Michael Wyman, a big time receiver. So Oklahoma's clearly going to move back. It's going to stick with that spring game being a big official visit weekend. It'll be interesting to see how many schools follow that because Oklahoma kind of, was the first one through the breach on that. So we'll see how that goes now. Other schools react. What I did want to say is, for people that think, Oklahoma's third, they might fall to fifth. That'll be the first time Oklahoma's finished in the top 5 in the Rivals rankings since 2005.
Adrian Peterson and Rhett Bomar, right?
No, that was 04.
That was a year before, yeah. So that was R.J. Washington, Jeremy Calhoun.
No, this will blow your mind.
No.
No, you got to let me figure this out.
Wait a minute.
Since I was actually doing recruiting back in those days. Good Lord. So it was post.
I'll give you one hint. 2005 graduate. He wasn't in the recruiting class, but he was in the freshman class at OU. Eddie Radosevich.
Wow.
Actually, I was. Did they do
Five
it by?
of the top 6
I
guys
graduated
in
high
this
school in
class.
2005.
Well, 05 would have been no. It
So
wouldn't
I
have
guess
been.
it's technically 2006.
It wouldn't have
freshman
been
class for
Keith
me.
Nickel that year, would it? No, that was the next year.
No. I think Nickel was 07, wasn't he?
He would have been 06.
Sam was 06.
06. He was a year
So
behind
he was
Sam.
07. Okay.
Yep.
Screw it. My brain's not working.
Again, 5 of the top 6 guys in this class rated 6-point or higher on defense. How much have times changed? It's just crazy. Do you want me to give you one name, Carey, and see if it'll get you going?
It wasn't Rufus, was it?
No. Rufus was 02.
Good God. My year. Well,
Hey,
Rufus was in the same draft class as NFL draft as Adrian Peterson. That's why it's got me all screwed up.
I could believe that.
Just
yeah.
say I don't care anymore.
It's okay. It's 05. They finished number 3 that year. The top 6 guys were Reggie Smith, DeMarcus Granger, Ryan Reynolds, Curtis Lofton, Malcolm Kelly, and that's the crew. Also had Alan Patrick, Joaquin Iglesias, and Austin English. Little Canadian-Texas connection there.
Curtis Lofton didn't end up too bad.
Yeah.
No.
Brody Eldridge ended up a pretty decent little player
Brody?
for him. The defensive end from Lacine, Kansas.
What about?
Can't remember.
That was kind of in that era when most of their recruiting class would just disappear.
There were some.
There you
They
have
had some real hits and some real misses.
One of the all-timers, Carey, Aaron Cummings from Bray.
Oh boy! Wow.
I remember going down
was
there to see
that
Was
that
he a
was
donkey?
That was pre Dalton
He was.
Wood. Like that was pre Dalton Wood.
Aaron
weirdness.
Cummings was the first Dalton Wood.
Well, he actually was here for a year, but he just like disappeared into the ether, like never to be heard from again.
Still, like to this day, nobody knows where he is.
I don't know, maybe I should investigate.
Speaking of, I don't know if
Go
he
down and get some
sired
Taco
Blake
Tico.
Biscuit and Dalton Wood.
Is Bray down by?
Oh yeah, it's right by Marlowe.
Is it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's Carey's stomping
Ray
ground. He knows
Doyle.
that turf.
It's Bray Doyle.
They're the donkeys.
They're the
Yeah,
donkeys.
they are the donkeys.
Oh, they're the donkeys.
Surprised you knew that.
I'm impressed.
I know a lot of high school mascots.
Are you autistic?
Kind of, something like that.
You're on the spectrum.
There's something wrong with me.
It's a lot of the lesser guys as you look through this class that ended up being really good players. I said, Alan Patrick.
I mean, Curtis Lofton was clearly the best player in that class, but
Sure.
Austin English might have been the second best.
Yeah.
At OU,
Duke Robinson was a really good player.
Oh yeah, that's when Kevin
CJ
Sumlin
Ayu was a good player.
Kevin Sumlin and Cale Gundy just like went to Atlanta all the time back then.
Wonder what's
Carey,
going on there.
you remember when they got
You think they
there?
were going on recruiting trips like Tom Herman and Zach Smith went on?
I don't know. I'm already blocked on Twitter by Cale, so what does it matter? Sure. No, I don't know. They just decided that Atlanta was going to be a priority for him, and they actually did
They
pretty decent.
They had a lot of really good players coming out of
Yeah.
there. They still do.
If you can get, if you go to cities like Los Angeles, Miami, and Atlanta, and you even get, the
2 guys?
1.5 tier,
Yeah.
not even the elite of the elite, you're getting really good football players.
Yeah. There's a
mean-
reason Mark Richt was the most underachieving coach in the history of college football.
Yeah, there's a reason there's Georgia guys all over the NFL. Mark Richt never – did he ever win – what, he win one SEC title?
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it was the one. And then was that the same year? Did they win it that year? Then they beat the crap out of, Utah or was it the other way around? Utah beat the crap out of
It
them.
might have been Boise you're thinking about.
Yeah, I can't remember. There was some weird Sugar Bowl. I'm trying to remember how that went. No, they won the SEC, and it was the year he beat the crap out of Colt Brennan from Hawaii. Remember Hawaii had that great offense that year, and they
Mark
beat the
Richt won the
life out of
SEC twice, 2002 and 2005.
them. Okay. Well,
And then he disappeared.
And then he was average forever. All right, well, Josh, I know you got to run. We got a couple things, housekeeping things that we can finish up with here, too, from Sunday and Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch. So we'll let you go and look forward to that interview with David Igwebu. Now that everybody knows that you're doing that, they're going to demand you get it up immediately, which I very much enjoy.
I shall. I'm going to go over to Starbucks once it's done.
Since you are the king of we're recording the podcast now.
You're just so hurtful, you know? You're very upset about this. Jason Kersey, I'm sorry that Carey hurt you. I'm sorry.
No, I like that you do that because it forces me to sit here and get it out fast. So it's the only thing that does. All right, Josh.
All right, guys.
Thanks a lot, man. All right, so there's Josh McQuistion. And guys, the only thing I kind of wanted to hit on, coming up at the end of this month, January 29th and 30th.
Board of Regents.
They will have the Board of Regents meeting where we're going to learn a lot of things like how much money exactly Lincoln Riley is going to be making moving forward. And he did happen to mention the other day, or he was asked about kind of the NFL talk and OU kind of showing the faith in him and giving him a big old fat contract.
I'm very thankful for it. Our Joe, President Gallagly, there's just been a ton of support, and that's one of the big reasons that somebody in this business, wants to stay at a place like this when there are other options out there, is that you feel like you got great people in the trenches with you and people there to support you and give you what you need to be successful. And Oklahoma's always done that, personally for me, they've always done that for this football program. That means a ton. I think a lot of people believe in the direction, the trajectory of this program right now. We certainly do. And to have the support of so many good people behind you, again, that's what makes this place special. So I'm very thankful for it and very excited about the future.
So the 29th is the first day of the Regents meetings. That stuff usually happens pretty quickly, and they just kind of have to release it to the public. But we should find out the full details of Alex Grinch's contract as well.
You think Manning and Odom will be done?
I don't
too?
know, because that stuff usually happens. I do because they're new hires now. Like the raises for like Bill Bedenbaugh and Cale Gundy and all those guys, that usually happens in the June or July meeting. So I don't know that we'll get an entire set, but we definitely should find out something on the new hires, which is the three guys on defense: Manning, Odom, and then Alex Grinch, of course, and then of course Lincoln Riley's new contract.
Over $6 million?
Yes.
Yeah, because
7?
Ooh, I don't know.
6.5.
bordering that.
In between 6.5 and 7?
If I were going to guess, and it'd be a total guess, when I asked someone, I said over 5, and they said, oh, yeah.
Over 5?
But it had to be over 5, because he was close to that as it was. I mean, I think it'll be, I would say, 6.2. 6.25.
6.25 would put him and this is just based off last year's salaries in 2018. That would put him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th.
And I'm not saying
that put him
definitely
8th overall. That put him in the top 10.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney made 6.5 last year. Kirby Smart made 6.6. Gus Malzahn 6.7, Jimbo Fisher 7.5, and then obviously Saban, Meyer, and Harbaugh all making more than that. But that's probably about right.
I don't know how much longer Harbaugh is going to be making that.
Tom Herman made $5.5 million last year. I don't know if he has I'm sure he made a bump after the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I will say this: like
definitely in top 10.
Riley's bonuses were weird. Like they didn't seem commensurate with what Bob had. Like
I think he made $150,000,
but I'm just
from the
saying,
Big 12 in the playoff.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
alone.
they were like that was it. It wasn't like they didn't have a lot of different kinds of bonuses. I think it was just playoff and Big 12.
I think he has some
and it didn't seem like the playoff was all that big.
I think that was only like $50,000 or something. I want to say that Riley also has a bump in his pay for Team GPA. But there's a lot of coaches that do.
Joe C. does, I know. I don't know if football coach has that.
Everybody getting in the study hall is okay. Just making sure.
Well, if anybody's really responsible for that, you got to think it's the athletic director.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're the ones that have to press the coaches on that.
Listen, if I was getting a pay raise based on kids' schooling, those guys would be in study hall when they're not in practice.
This was corrected, but I remember the weirdest thing that ever happened was that Joe Castiglione, I don't know if it was the same, but it was either equal or more. His pay raise for Patty Gasso winning a national championship in softball was more, I think, than she got for winning a national championship. And everybody was like, oh, that's not right. And they fixed that pretty quick. It's just probably one of those things like, it's women's softball. You don't really think about, this is not a super revenue sport.
You said it. I didn't. I'm trying to build them a new stadium.
They're getting a new stadium.
We need something bigger.
They got to raise some.
Not good enough. Not good enough for Patty. I've made an oath to her that
You don't like that corner?
No, we need something bigger.
Tear down Lloyd Noble?
Tear down one side of the practice course. I'll tell you that.
Maybe we could build it in that field so people will stop flying model airplanes over there.
Oh, they need their space. They need their space for that. It's a good area. It's all the way south of campus.
They've been doing that ever since I was a kid.
Flying planes.
They used to race RC cars in the parking lot of Lloyd Noble when I was a kid.
Probably a pretty good parking lot for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of torn apart now, though. Any other order of business you guys want to hit on before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so. Bob and I will be in Stillwater this evening for Bedlam basketball. We kind of talked about it at the beginning of the show, didn't we? Just as far as this is
we said
kind of a pivotal game for the group.
It's been a rough week.
Is this team any good on the road?
No, they've lost 9 of 19 of their last 21
well
on the road.
They played well at Tech, though.
They've played well on the road.
They just haven't won any.
And they've
played
lost,
well
they've
at
lost
Texas.
11 in a row.
That fumble out of bounds by Christian James at the end of the Texas game.
That hurt.
Bad.
The only dud they had was last week at home against Kansas State.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, I can see that coming.
Kansas State might be one of the best teams,
hottest
teams in the country right now.
They might be the best team in the Big 12. I mean,
they might be.
We know West Virginia's not good.
No,
Oklahoma
West
State's
Virginia's
not
awful.
good. We don't know if Oklahoma's decent. Texas is okay.
I think on any given night, Oklahoma's in that probably 5 to 8 range.
Baylor is teetering on
crazy?
not okay, aren't they?
No, I mean, with the Sooners, you believe that when they play at home, they can beat anybody.
Yeah,
when they play on the
can play
road, they
anybody.
can lose to everybody.
Yeah.
I think Iowa State, Kansas.
I think Iowa State's pretty good.
Iowa State, Kansas, and Kansas State, I think, are the 3 best teams.
Because Tech's fallen a little bit.
Tech.
2 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Tech,
ago, I would definitely had Tech in there. They've lost 3 in a row,
3,
right?
yes, the last 3.
They played Duke down to the wire.
Yeah, they just. I think it's a lot of it has to do with this conference. Like I think that, and maybe we'll see in a weird way this weekend with the Big 12 SEC challenge type thing. Oklahoma has Vanderbilt coming in, but I think that the Big 12 is very, very good. And on any given night, if you don't play well, you can get beat, whether you play at home or on the road. I think that's kind of been proven here over the last couple of nights.
The thing that you do know, or that I think is a certainty in this conference right now, is the later you play Oklahoma State, the better, because that team is going to wear out.
Yeah.
They don't have any bodies.
No, and that's why it's important for OU to win tonight, just because you're not going to you clear them off the schedule after this. You're not going to have an easy win at home on the way.
Why
back
are we
half.
clearing off Bedlam this early?
I don't know. It's weird.
It's been weird.
It's stupid. It's a football state.
Last two years, their home game at Lloyd Noble has been during break.
Way to go, Big 12.
No students.
I don't know, though. Would you rather have I mean, the way it's played out now, I
do know. You have to wait until football is over to have OU-OSU basketball to get any excitement in this state about college basketball.
Yeah, they're not going to be excited anyways. Especially with the way the Oklahoma State seems to be trending in one direction. I say just get them out of the way. I'd rather have a Texas Tech at home later on in the season than the other way around, if that makes sense.
They're going with senior night against Kansas.
Texas Tech could be number 1 in the country. Nobody's getting excited about the Red Raiders coming to Norman.
If they were the number 1 team in the country, there would be.
I disagree.
There'd be people there. Be better than what they had at Kansas State at the Lloyd
people
Noble
that
Center.
have no I don't know, feel for history.
And we're talking about Vandy coming in. That's the worst team in the SEC. So it'd be, I think that's one thing I wrote about today is those wins that all look good. USC, Florida, Notre Dame, Wichita State. None of those teams are doing anything. And so maybe this is what OU is. They're just middle of the tier.
Oh, I definitely think there's a lot of that. But
well,
at the same
offensively,
time,
I think we can say offensively, OU is not good.
No,
they don't have a go-to guy.
Bieniemy might be becoming that guy.
He has no problem pulling some shots up there in the close games. I mean, that takes some brass balls to be able to do that as a freshman.
Yeah. Maybe Christian James should borrow them from time to time.
He's a good player, though. I like Bieniemy.
With the OU Vandy game, that will be Junior Day, and they'll also be honoring the 2018 Big 12 championship football team.
Junior Day, any big? What's the big? You got a few big names there.
There's
Bob?
some. What's funny is there's just as many for 2021 as there are for 2020. I think the biggest name we're all wondering about is 5-star running back Zach Evans from the Houston area, whether or not he's going to be able to make it. He relies on his brother for transportation to everywhere, so you just don't know. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes it's a last-minute thing where he has to cancel. So that's sort of the name we're all waiting on, but it's a good list. I think the next Junior Day will be bigger because that's when Odom, Manning, Grinch will all feel a lot more comfortable. But this Saturday will be the first chance where you really get to see what those guys can do with the 2020 and 2021 classes.
That was a fantastic report from Bob Prisbillo telling OU bagmen how to take care of Zach Evans' brother. Maybe a car purchase would help.
Getting off of work, too.
Job, car,
Checking
bagman.
These people are so needy these days.
All right, well, thanks to Josh McQuistion, who has left for site business. Thanks to Eddie Radosevich. Thanks to Bob Prisbillo. I am Carey Murdoch, and we'll see you guys right back here next week. By the way, huge thank you to all you guys. Over 34,000 individual downloads of the podcast last week. Let's get to 35 this week. So appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you telling your friends. Gotta get. I was wondering if you're gonna have a podcast without an F-bomb.
Let's go 45,000. 45,000.
I think we'll get there eventually.
Let's have enough downloads of the podcast that you can fill Boone Pickens Stadium.
That's interesting.
It's like 60?
65?
65?
Well, are we talking at capacity or a normal OSU game?
Oh, no, capacity. So what is listed
Capacity,
at?
yeah. That's what I want. And then next time we can match Boone Pickens' age. That'd be 85. And we'll add 3 zeros, so 85,000.
Okay. He's still kicking.
I don't know if he's 85.
I'm glad he's
I
doing
made that
well.
up.
I think he's older than that.
Okay.
Sounds young.
Whatever.
All right, so thanks for listening to the Choctaw Casino and Resort in Durant unofficial 40 podcast. We'll see you guys back here next week.